Hi, I'm Brad from Ductus, and I'm back with another video on one of the 4 core pillars of impactful automation. In this video, we'll be discussing ubiquity, which is the measure of how accessible and centralized automation and all relevant data required to execute it is in an organization. Now, this ubiquity can come in many different dimensions, right? We can be ubiquitous in our ingress for our automation. Do we access the automation from one centralized place, or are there many ways to access the automation? Do we have a Python script over here? Do we have a bash script that's run locally? Do we hit AWX, or is it abstracted away in a ServiceNow service catalog entry? In many engagements that we've seen, the best outcomes result from people who have had this discussion very early on with their teams, understood their ways of working, and either built a custom portal or had agreement from different organizations to use one of these ingresses. We can be ubiquitous in the actual automation that we build, not just where we access it, but what it does. Many times when we go into an engagement, there's teams that already have varying degrees of complex automation. Maybe someone has a Python script that's going to provision an L2 VPN. Maybe someone has a full-fledged AWX workflow that does that. They just did not communicate with each other to understand that there was already redundant work that had been done that could have been leveraged to streamline the engagement. So one thing we like to do is when we start, we try to find all relevant stakeholders who could have developed automation, go to different silos, and try to understand what capabilities we have at day 0. We lay all those scripts and all those workflows on the table, and we see what can be repurposed, what can be consolidated into something larger than the sum of its parts. And that helps us make sure that we're not redoing things that were already done by individuals who have expert insight into the process. There can also be ubiquity in the actual automation platform itself. Many times, there's not just one way to achieve a network automation function. There's just not one way to observe telemetry. There's not just one source of truth. And when this happens, it's best to have a discussion with different teams to understand how we can consolidate a lot of this function. And I'll talk briefly about an engagement where we try to instantiate a source of truth, not knowing that there were already competing sources of truth, which led to some complexity in the integration of the disparate sources of truth. So we didn't have ubiquity across the teams to understand how they should access the source of truth. This led to some lack of confidence in the relevance of the data that was stored in the source of truth until we reevaluated the situation, saw we weren't getting the engagement we thought we would, and realized we need to have a canonical source of truth by consolidating all of these sources of truth into one. If you're asking yourself, what can I do today to make my automation more ubiquitous, then you're watching the right video. I would begin by first discussing with my immediate team what automation they have. What have they developed that they use in their day-to-day life to streamline their jobs? Is it a Python script that's just gonna pull an IP address from IPAM and throw it on a device? Do they have a script to turn up a new interface? Try to understand the current capabilities of your team and agree upon a repository for these. Or are we going to just throw them up on GitHub, whatever VCS you use and whatever provider you use to version your software, have that agreement, and then take all of the disparate automation you have and then store it in a place where everyone can access it. This starts a discussion, and almost certainly you'll find that maybe 2 individuals have implemented the same kind of automation in 2 distinct ways. Also, when it comes to a procedural level, make sure there is ubiquity and uniformity in the way you actually develop your processes. Many times we've seen MOPs held by 2 individuals, just ways of doing pre-checks and post-checks on the device that diverge. So everything that was done by that team might not be valid if it was done using the other method, right? We have 2 divergent ways of performing the same task. So we also like to have agreement on the actual processes that will be automated. So by following these 2 initial steps, understanding what automation you have, understanding where you want to store it, and then trying to look at the actual underlying processes that you do, even outside of automation, and make sure there is coherence in the processes you follow right now, those are the first 2 steps to ensuring you're going to get that kind of ubiquity that will allow your automation to flourish and be leveraged by teams outside of your immediate silo. And I'd like to thank you for your time, and we'll be back with another pillar of impactful automation.